Welcome back to the Kaiju Lounge. Hope everyone's doing okay. It's the week of Halloween, and everyone is in the spirit by partaking in their favorite horror-filled media. In order to join in on all the fun, I thought I would talk about the scariest thing I could think of: capitalism. This is the Rant and Rave. Specifically, I want to look at the arms race that is rising costs, studio consolidation, and a fear of taking risks. Honestly, it's a lot like The Purge. There are mass cullings of people, it disproportionately affects the lower middle class workers, and after the sirens blare, the worst offenders feel no shame. I mean, look at him. He looks like the kind of guy that would walk around in a t-shirt that reads, "Don't yell at me, I'm purging," with no pants as he rips the tags off of mattresses. And with that stumble, I have filled our weekly Bobby Kotick burn quota. How is our countdown looking? 62 days, 2 hours, 36 minutes, and 54, 3, 2, 1 seconds till he is out of Blizzard. Fantastic. Now, the industry is in a rough patch right now. And a lot of it starts with the false hopes and promises of AAA games. It's common to say that these games are just too big, but they are. Like, I played 60 hours of Elden Ring, 60 hours of Assassin's Creed Valhalla without discovering more than a quarter of the map. I actually doubled that for Elden Ring, and I haven't even gotten past the big city yet. Heck, I started God of War 2 before my wife was pregnant. By the time I finished, I had a son, and I gotta say, that game hits different when you become a parent. But it's not just the physicality of the map. The games are too big in terms of cost and time to make. And it doesn't seem like that's being spent on game design or play mechanics, because most of those have already been formed before the game arrives. Look, at best, we're getting sequels. Games that maybe add a few features or two, but otherwise proven properties running off the style and often the engine of the previous game. At worst, they're clones, taking whatever fad is in the industry and putting the smallest spin on it. Smash is popular, so let's make Nickelodeon Smash and Warner Brothers Smash. Fortnite became What If PUBG but middle school, and then every company needed battle royales and games as a service. Sometimes you get Fall Guys, but often it's a Ninjala or a Rumbleverse. Games that put so much money into the advertising and partnership spend that they run themselves out of business in almost like 2 years. And then there are open world games. Like GTA 3 came out 22 years ago, and now it feels like every big budget studio game that's not one of the genres I just mentioned must be this. It's all about scope and scale and choices matter. And then we're all disappointed when sacrifices are made to make that happen. So the next one has to be bigger, but the technology isn't there yet, so more money is spent, more crunch is put on the devs, and more of what actually matters in the game gets lost. And I'm not here to hate. I loved Starfield, Assassin's Creed, and Tears of the Kingdom. But the biggest element they all have in common, besides their open world, is that I never finished them. Zelda might actually be the weirdest one on the list for me here, because I did finish Breath of the Wild. I felt compelled to complete it. I recognize that Tears of the Kingdom on paper is a better game, bigger, more to do, plenty of new features. But if I wasn't inspired to finish the game and it didn't make me feel the way the original did, can I rightfully call it the better game? Does more actually make a game better? I got off track here. I mentioned sequels and clones because I actually wanted to discuss the next issue: companies unable to take risks. The pressure to make these games so big means they have to spend a lot of money, and if they spend a lot of money, it has to guarantee success. Success, in this case, is appealing to the lowest common denominator, and taking risks means being unsure that something will be successful. It's a lot like comedy and tragedy. Comedy is so much harder than tragedy because what is funny is subjective, but what is sad tends to be pretty universal. It's why all Oscar movies are designed to be dramas with amazing actors that no one remembers in 5 years, because Oscar bait is formula. Think of a breakup, a missing child in the news, the death of a beloved pet. These things are either sad or you very much need psychiatric help. Now, the AAA games industry is running on something similar with a self fulfilling prophecy. Money is needed for big games. Big games historically sell well. Selling well is needed to make money. Money is needed for big games. The problem is you now have no room left in the industry for growth. I don't play Call of Duty, Madden, or Fortnite. I get why people like those games. No, maybe not Call of Duty, but they aren't for me. If I'm not going to play it now, I'm not going to play it in like 5 years. If you aren't bringing new people to the industry, you set a cap on its earning potential. We're losing the spice of life itself, variety. I love my huge, epic, third-person, yes, open world experiences. But my wife doesn't. My wife does like games, but none of the big mainstream genres appeal to her. That's money on the table that none of the big studios are picking up because it won't make enough money, so they won't try anything new. Now, this is where the little guys come in, the indie studios. Are they living lavish lives in huge mansions? No, not at all. Many are still in basements or apartments, but these lower cost projects can break through because the mark of success is far lower than a AAA studio. Here, when I run World's Greatest Gamer Tournament out here in New York, we have our games like Street Fighter 6 and Mario Kart 8, mainstream games for the gamer community. We also have our classics like Sonic 2 and Tetris for the old heads like me. But on top of that, I make sure to add these. Here we go. Gigabash. Can we get that on camera? There we go. See, Gigabash, Overcooked, Oh Sir, the insult simulator. The idea is because I'm adding these indie, these special, these off-kilter games because I want as many people to sign up for this event as possible, irregardless of skill level. The randomness of every round being a truly different game acts as an equalizer where winning is only slightly more important than having fun. And honestly, that's the feedback I've been lucky to get so far. That even when someone is out in the first round, they had a great time. This is why the indie market trying something different when the mainstream market is too afraid to is so important, but it also leads us to another issue, consolidation. Former PlayStation boss Sean Layden had a keynote speech at the GamesIndustry.biz Investment Summit where he talked about these issues, but his comments on consolidation hit me the hardest. Consolidation can be the enemy of creativity. First, let's look at what I think is the biggest factor in consolidation: streaming services. Google, Netflix, Apple, Amazon, they've all been trying to get into the games industry for a while. Google flopped hard with Stadia, but they are certainly not deterred. Apple has their game service and hopes that mobile games and Apple TV can fill a void. Amazon, of course, has Twitch and the free games with Prime that they do. And Netflix apparently has a game service that launched. I mean, I remember them talking about it, but I didn't know it actually happened until my friend told me he uses it. Now, none of these attempts have been able to break through the brick wall that is the perception of real games versus casual. Like here, hold on, I get it. It's bullshit. They're all real games. But there is a societal perception between gamers with everything they play and the systems they play on, and the people who play games but don't consider themselves part of gamer culture. It's its own rabbit hole, so I'm going to stop there and just let people yell at me about my generalizations. The thing is, these 4 companies all have streaming services for film and TV. Xbox and PlayStation, but I don't know how many people are adopting it, have their own similar streaming platform for games. I mean, the writing is on the wall, and buying a company gives you a chance at exclusivity. You can't watch Marvel movies on Paramount Plus, and it's only a matter of time before you can't play Crash Bandicoot on Sony, which truthfully is crazy to think, but it is an Activision property, not a Sony one. That, in my humble opinion, late picture, is the why of consolidation. Outside companies looking to get in, so the inside companies are trying to disrupt the games industry before the others can and knock them out. Sony and Microsoft did this to Sega in the early 2000s, and now that they have a seat at the table, they want to stay there. But what is the actual result? I'll repeat Sean Layden's words here again. Consolidation can be the enemy of creativity. See, once these games get gobbled up, the larger entity becomes their boss, and any autonomy is gifted at best or an illusion at worst. The truth is, these games need more and more resources, and as a corporation adapts these studios, they're able to pull the resources towards the games that need it. Here, if PlayStation buys, let's say, Yacht Club games, and Sony is planning on making Horizon Deep in the Bayou, they want this game out by Christmas, and it needs to have a level of detail that makes Forbidden West look like Skull Island Rise of Kong. Who do you think they are pulling to? Who do you think they're pulling from to push this to? In this hypothetical world, Sony already has Pocket Dungeon and Shovel Knight in their library, but they aren't going to make as much money on Shovel Knight 2 as they are on a new Horizon game. Or how about this? Let's actually be generous to them. Let's say that Sony is interested in making Shovel Knight 2. Oh, that would be great. I would love that. But I don't think we would have gotten all the other great games they have produced. Cyber Shadow, Mina the Hollower, the Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon and Dig games. Even when they are going back to the well for their number one IP, Shovel Knight, they're still trying something new. They still take a chance. On the flip side, look at Naughty Dog. In the last 10 years, 5 out of 7 games have either been The Last of Us or a remaster of The Last of Us. And everything on the horizon is The Last of Us, including a likely PS5 remaster of Part 2, a game that came out for the PS4 in 2020. I mean, they are milking this cow dry. And Naughty Dog is super talented. They make good games. They could do new projects and have another hit, but that is a chance Sony isn't willing to take because the pressure of the industry says that the games have to be big, and the cost of games means they're only 1 or 2 flops away from Red falling on their face. And yes, I still got a Redfall reference in. Never stop hating. So what do we do? Honestly, I don't know. Like a horror movie, this is not an ending with a resolution, but a to be continued. I love games. Truly, I care about this industry and I love games. I'd have to. I wouldn't be live streaming for an average of 2 to 3 people if I didn't, and I think that's being generous. I want games to be viewed as art and culture in the same way that movies and music are. We can't get rid of the mainstream media. AAA games aren't going anywhere, just like blockbuster films and overly produced boy bands aren't. The best we can do is support what we have and what we like and what is out there. Encourage accessibility in gaming, both in making games and playing them. Lift unique voices and concepts that are out there. Wishlist a game on Steam that looks neat and different and weird. If it catches your eye, give it support. Honestly, I'm actually sure there's even better things that I'm naming right now that can be done. But this is the start, and we got to start somewhere. Otherwise, Nintendo will be the final girl, narrowly fighting off death over and over again like a Final Destination film.